more information, visit flygainesville.com.
Cloudy and cooler today, high 62 to 65. Tonight, mainly clear and chilly, low 42. Tomorrow, sunshine, followed by increasing clouds, high 68 to 70. Sunday, nice with some sunshine, high 73 to 77. Monday, areas of low clouds with a thunderstorm possible in the afternoon, high Monday, 80 to 83. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Brian.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. And we just finished up there before the 9 o'clock hour. Bits of news that you can chew, a little bit of news bits. And now I've got Martin Suter in the studio. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, everybody.
Good. All right, my friend. Well, a lot happened this so-called weekend with race day. We talked a little bit before it happening, and then we had like one full day Sunday of pre-race, and then rain, and then Monday is when they continued that for 4 o'clock, and then it had a wild finish.
It did have a wild finish. Yeah, I think I told you last week that we went for almost like 15 years in a row, and one of my more vivid memories was. My wife and I actually call him Flying Ryan Newman because he seemed to always go upside down, but I can't remember the year. It was probably late 90s, and it was on the front stretch, and I mean, he must have rolled 8 or 10 times, and the axle came out of the car, and it was just, she grabbed my arm the whole time, and he jumped right out of that car, that day. So I know he's a tough guy, but I can't believe that he walked out of that hospital.
Yeah. So going in, was it Monday night, with what they were considering to maybe have severe injuries, non-life-threatening. As he was a ball of flame scooting across the finish line.
Not just that, but got hit right in the door.
Yeah. And come away with then, by Wednesday, which was 2 days ago, walking out of the hospital with his daughters. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed he'd have some broken limbs at minimum because they got them tucked in there pretty good these days, with their necks and shoulders and stuff, but your arms and legs are still.
And I was watching something. What was I watching? I can't remember, but it's not necessarily like, all right, yeah, you're like in that seat and everything. You got the helmet, you got the suit on and everything, but it's when you look at his wreck with the crash, it's how hard you get jostled. Like it doesn't matter, but just the amount of energy taken all over at so many points when you're rolling and grinding and sliding and on fire. Yeah, that's what's the incredible part is just how much. Yeah, like you're in a steel cage, you're getting rattled around. I know you're strapped in there tight, but geez, there's only so much that the energy can be taken by the body, but he absorbed it, and there you go. 2 days later, he's walking out of the hospital as if it was just like...
I was impressed, obviously, but and happy. So
now, do you think, what kind of effect does that have on his season in lieu of maybe coming back this season or just retiring?
It might affect more than a season.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, like I said to you, I've seen him roll over and do just about the same thing except the fire,
Yeah.
And
now, were you surprised by who won? Denny Hamlin?
Not really. Not really. I know it's 2 in a row, and I think it's 3 out of the last 5 at Daytona. So
and that's number 4 for Daytona 500s for racing owner Joe Gibbs, which is incredible.
Right.
And, man, that not only in his football career as head coach, but now doing what he does, man, it's awesome. It's awesome.
He obviously inspires people.
Yeah. With that said, partner, we've got you on every Friday like we do to talk about new technology information. And we've been talking, because I think it was last week, can't remember which day it was, but another Falcon 9 rocket had been launched in order to release more of the Starlink satellites.
Yep.
And you said you did a little homework on...
I did a little boning up on it. I said I was going to try to do that. So anyway, it appears that there's already over 300 of them up there.
Is that right? Wow.
Which is a minor...
Wow.
They're wanting to shoot a rocket almost every 2 weeks all year.
Is that right?
And their goal is 16,000 of these satellites up there, and within the next year, and they want to get up to 42,000 of these satellites up there. And it is not for 5G from everything I've read.
Okay.
Which surprises me, but I have seen nothing about the 5G content. There will be some K-band, C-band, which is what we deal with here and in the television world.
Okay. Yep.
But mostly, unfortunately, I guess their intent is to put broadband internet where, well, at first they're saying they want to put it where you can't get it, right? And but the second paragraph also states that they will, obviously be putting it in urban areas also.
Gotcha.
And basically expect the broadband internet part of all this project to kind of pay for the rest of it, because there's going to be like 3 groups of these things floating around out there. And again, I believe, your radio television is one of the groups, and they're going to be at kind of different heights and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then,
Interesting.
Yeah, and then also the 2 we talked about, but the third one is there are dead spots during hurricane season, as we all know, and supposedly they're going to be able to even move these things and use them to track hurricanes better than we have in the past.
Incredible.
Yeah, so that's what I've read about it so far. It seems pretty, it is a subsidiary of SpaceX.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Man, is there room for eventually? Would you say 42,000?
42,000. I don't.
So if we send a manned rocket ship up, how do we avoid those things going through the atmosphere and then eventually being out in inner orbit?
I'll leave that up to the experts, man. I don't know.
Yeah, but, I guess so. That's nuts.
But apparently most of this stuff is approved, at least up to the 16,000 anyway. And they've got schedules of the launches. It's it's a pretty deluxe article I was reading, but they got serious plans.
Now let's see here. I think I wanted to look this up one time before, but just exactly how big are these Starlink?
Yeah, I didn't get into that. I know I think we looked at it on the computer last week.
Starlink, let's see.
And
How big?
What they did say is they're using a xenon or some kind of a gas for the thrusters. They say that it's more corrosive, and it wasn't necessarily better than the other option, the standard electrical type option, but it was much cheaper, I guess, as far as moving them around.
Okay.
Thrusters and stuff. So
yeah, that makes sense.
if you're going to have that many of them, I guess cheaper isn't always bad.
Let's see here. It says provided satellite internet access. Constellation will consist of thousands of these mass-produced small satellites working in combination with ground transceivers.
Yeah.
And SpaceX also plans to sell some of the satellites to the military for scientific or exploratory purposes.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah, they said it's going to be an array, a square antenna at the house with about the size of a pizza box is what they said. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, as far as the actual satellite, I mean, if you got 60 of them in one rocket, they can't be very darn big.
Yeah. they say here that in practice, current satellites have Starlink satellites would orbit at 1/30th to 105 of the height of geostationary type orbits, and thus offer more practical Earth to satellite.
Yeah, in essence,
Earth to sat latencies from 25 to 35 milliseconds.
In essence, they're needing to make them much lower so that, like they just said, the ping, the lag time would be in the 25, 35 millisecond range. Right now, it's in, I guess, 500 or 600 milliseconds, which they are milliseconds, but in my system there at HOT, at Homeland Optical Technology, my average ping is about 9 milliseconds.
Okay.
So it's not quite up to my standards, but 25 is good enough, especially if it's coming from the satellite. So
yeah,
it's not much lag time.
Size of Starlink. I'm going to type it in a little bit different. Each satellite is the size of a table and includes a reflective solar panel. So about the size of basically what they're describing here is like a coffee table.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, this table's pretty big.
Yeah, this table's pretty big.
But,
like a coffee table.
A coffee table, yeah. I can.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, again, most of that, because it looked like a kind of a pipe, cylindrical, gadget, but I bet you most of it is, and obviously it probably folds up until they deploy it, and that comes out, for your array.
Yeah, it's kind of neat how they even show within the Falcon 9 rocket they've got them folded up in the very top nose cone there. Yeah, interesting stuff. Well, I guess that's where we're at now, right?
I assumed it was for 5G, but there's got nothing about 5G in any of it. So
yeah, we got a caller, and good morning. You're on the air, WOCA with Martin Suter.
Good morning.
Hey, you.
With all those satellites up there, do you think that they're designed to eventually to re-enter and burn up? Because in time, there's going to be so much stuff up there. They're talking like taking people up there for a joyride and that. But you run into something like that, you could be in trouble. But you think that they would be designed in time to re-enter and burn up, and then they wouldn't be there no more?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Because the size of them, nonetheless,
the size, they'll just burn up.
When they're out of use or when they have an issue, they can easily just change its coordinates, drop it in the atmosphere, and it'll completely incinerate.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
That space station up there must be further away out of the path of all those satellites, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it's way different. They're way up above even the geostationary ones. They're up there.
They're up there, and that's what we were talking about. These being more lower orbit in lieu of being able to give that good ping or signal that's necessary. And so your ISS is way up there. I don't know.
Well, let's just hope that they're designing those satellites to come back and burn up, so we don't have a garbage bucket up there full of them.
Yeah. Again, from what I read, even on the propulsion, it's not a forever thing. So.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll fall.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Hugh.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it, buddy. And we had another caller there. If you can call back. Yeah, not quite. But that's not a bad question. It's like I think I had asked that to somebody the other day. I was like, hey, them things gonna just become garbage up there, or are they actually gonna burn up in the atmosphere? And we got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air. AM Ocala Live. We got Martin Suter. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My thought on that is, you're going to put up enough junk up there orbiting around the Earth now. Right now, they were saying there was some kind of problems with a lot of the older satellites that are no longer used. They're just laying dormant up there, and eventually, I guess, they'll come to Earth. But doesn't that present a problem for launching, unless they have a thing set up like the flight towers have? You stay one direction, you stay at one altitude, another direction, you go to another altitude, on and so forth.
Yeah, no,
That's
there
the only
is.
thing I can think of is they might have it so these satellites all roam around where it doesn't interfere with Kennedy's Space Center.
Right, and there's more.
You're talking about something traveling 17,000 miles an hour or better.
Right.
And I don't care what you're in, you hit something like that, it's bye-bye.
Sure.
Yeah. I was just wondering what you guys think about that.
Now, I do know that that they do track. They have the technology that tracks everything that is up there.
Right.
And thanks for the call, partner.
Yeah.
And it's actually along, I think, or one of the places that I know that is designated to is along the Gulf Coast here. There's a restricted airspace that's within the area between Panama City and Destin.
Right.
And we had talked to somebody when I was doing some aerial photography. We had landed in an airport, and we had gotten to know a few guys that we saw on the regular. And but basically, there's an area there that the Air Force actually tracks all that space junk. Now, from what we were told, is like, yeah, back in the day, they just kind of left it up there, hoping that eventually, like an orbit elliptically would eventually pull it into the atmosphere and it would burn up. Well, that's taken so long for certain pieces, but they've been tracking the hell out of that for years, and they know there's a lot of junk up there that's expected to do that. The other thing is nowadays, just probably like these things like we're talking about, just to avoid them floating up there forever before entering the atmosphere, they've got a way to say, a self-destruct button, if you will, to just send it flying through the atmosphere to disrupt it. But from what I heard, it's not really. There's still you're talking. You're talking about where we are satellites the size of a coffee table. So you're still talking that even if there's, and that made me feel better because you're talking about eventually having about 40,000 of them up there.
Yeah.
I imagine there's probably a sequence in where they want them and how they want them.
Yep.
And then with that being said, that still you're talking a lot of sky up there, a lot of room. And with that, but I'm sure it sounds alarming when you think about, man, how much crap is up there.
That would be, back to the question, that would be the scariest part is, when you're, we all know them rockets aren't, they're not the most, solid thing, man. Sometimes they got like an aluminum, it's,
Right.
It's, if you hit something, it'd be bad news. The other thing they did mention in that article is that there's so many of them that you would actually see them.
Yeah.
Like stars,
Yeah.
And some of the, tree-hugging type people were worried that it would take away your ability to see the stars. I don't know if it's going to be that bad, but,
Now, there was some controversy just lately within that because of, I guess, them trying to do certain things. What did they say down here? Some criticism. A large number of the planned satellites has been met with criticism from the astronomical community because astronomers claim that the number of visible satellites will outnumber visible stars, and that their brightness is both optical and radio wavelength will severely impact the scientific observations. Because the Starlink satellites can autonomously change their orbits, observations cannot be scheduled to avoid them, so to speak. And this came from the International Astronomical Union and National Radio Astronomy Observatory. They've released statements expressing concerns, but says SpaceX representatives and Elon Musk have claimed that the satellites will have very, very minimal impact. Many professional astronomers have disputed that these claims based on the initial observation of the Starlink satellites on the first launch, because shortly after the deployment from the launch vehicle, in later statements they stated SpaceX will work on reducing the albedo of satellites and the measure of the diffuse reflection of the satellites, and will provide on-demand orientation adjustments for astronomical experiments if necessary. So they're trying to mitigate the concerns about that by being able to redirect the things when they need to and stuff like it. It's just the way of the future, man. That's just how it is.
I guess they started with one 30,000 square foot building, ended up 2, and then now it's up to 3. It's just a big, huge building now, I guess, that because you got to figure if they're going to try to throw up 60 every 2 weeks, they got to be mass producing those things.
Right. Yeah, incredible. Incredible. It's something kind of neat that we're paying attention to, just overall, but it's that thing that's there in key technology to push society and human intervention forward.
Well,
so with that being said, we'll see what actually, I guess right now we're just talking about something that is supposed to help some signal. Going up there, 42,000 of them, but who knows what we could see come from that in the next few years.
Well, there's a lot of places, that rural that can't get internet, or they can get the satellite internet. Right now, it's HughesNet and stuff, and
right.
There's a lot of lag, and it's not real fast, but you can get it.
Right.
But that's the only way to get it, So again, I'm fine with that, but my concern is, they're going to be flying over Ocala Palms too. So, you know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
Who knows? The internet. If you can get it wireless, I guess it's a good thing. I don't know if it's reliable.
If it's reliable. As we were talking, Martin Suter in the studio, just talking a little bit about, like we always do every Friday, any new things about technology and so on and so forth. And today we brought up the topic of the Starlink satellites that are being launched from our backyard here at Cape Kennedy with SpaceX. Another thing I want to throw at your partner is, I was saying this morning, since I know you're an outdoorsman as well, is Ron DeSantis announced the 2020 Gulf Red Snapper season.
Yep.
Saying June 11th through July 25th.
Yep.
And they're talking about even a possible fall reopening if quota is available.
Right.
They said earlier this month, Florida was delegated authority to manage recreational red snapper harvest from private vessels in Gulf federal waters. And with that being said, quote, Ron DeSantis was pleased to announce that our state's good conservation practices are allowing us to have a 45-day Gulf red snapper season this year.
They didn't throw in the size and the limit?
No, no, they did not. And that's something, for more information, you can contact your Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Right.
But yeah, so that's some good news there. And
'cause it's roughly a 90-mile jaunt out there to get red snapper from the Gulf.
Yeah.
From here. I know you've got Pensacola type routes, and up there it's you can go 10, 12 miles and get into the snapper.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking about. Getting my dad up there and us checking it out this summer to see what we can catch. I said I lived in Florida for 10 years and I still haven't been fishing for red snapper yet.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I always missed it. I think the few times that there was a possibility of going, it was either too early or too late. Of the season itself.
Right.
Yep.
So Joe and I, are working. We've been working on that little bit of skipping that goes on once in a while.
Yeah. With our satellite feed.
We've tweaked the satellite a couple times. We did it again last night, so we're hoping it's getting a little better. And we've Dan's working on possibly getting a new part, and I want to change a connector out there, and it's basically going to require a cherry picker. So we're going to get on it.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure everything's tight.
I was in Dan's office yesterday, and I heard you guys talking about it, and the idea I think was pretty good. Just get a cherry picker, get it up there, and while it's up there, and do it instead of trying to bring that sucker down. Screw something up.
Joe was like, "Well, we'll drop
up.
it down and put the ladder on the electric box," and I said, "I don't think so." So. Anyway, we are working on it, just to let everybody know. So
Yeah. So hopefully, for those who listen to our syndication and everything after I'm gone at 11, when we turn on the national syndicated coverage and what we have running for the rest of the day, that hopefully we'll get rid of that spiky noise that does a little skipping. Yeah. It sounds like good old-fashioned 1998 to 2002 skipping of a compact disc within your CD player kind of thing. But oh, excellent. Well, just about 15 seconds left, partner, just to say pleasure to have you in, and hope you have a good weekend.
You too.
That's Martin Suter with our update on technology and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And when we come back here after the bottom of the hour, we're going to have Robert Cohen for On Top of the World. We're back after this.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. President Trump holds a rally in Las Vegas today, the last of 3 rallies in the West this week. Last night in Colorado Springs, he went after the Democrats running for president, including Mike Bloomberg.
President Trump referring to Bloomberg's performance during Wednesday's Democratic debate.
Bloomberg made a fool out of himself last night. He choked.
Bloomberg had sent out a tweet soon after Trump ally Roger Stone got sentenced to 40 months behind bars in federal prison. The former mayor wrote, "Shouldn't you be pardoning Roger Stone, you #carnival barking clown?"
Fox's Jill NATO. A 7-day deal is announced with the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying the United States has come to an understanding with the Taliban.